We'll call the meeting, the Plan Commission meeting for Monday, September 9th, 2024 at 6:10 p.m. to order.
You're either.
Roll call,
Okay.
please.
Oh,
Here.
just in time.
Zagami?
Here.
Peterson?
Yes.
Garrett?
Here.
Hoffman?
Present.
Gordon?
Here.
And Mumford.
Can you let them know that I text Michael for a link, please, and then just let them know I'm on speaker with you. They can hear you, I think.
We can hear you. He's trying.
That's you.
I didn't have my iPad with me, so I couldn't. I didn't have the link to zoom in.
All right, he just sent it to you. Otherwise, we can hear you fine the way you are right now as well.
Okay, I'll shut her down and. Okay, thank you.
All right, public comment. Is there anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment?
1 second, I'm just omitting one person that just popped in now. So why don't you just repeat the question?
Okay, second time. Anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment? Third time. Anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment? Connected yet?
He is connected.
I'm not sure who just joined us, but did you have any public comments you'd like to make? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to minutes from previous meetings. Item number 3, minutes from August 12th, 2024 PC meeting.
Motion to approve as presented. Second.
Motion by Deason, seconded by Mumford. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So carried. Communications, disclosures, and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals during this time. Do we have any? Okay. Item number 4, written communications received. Nothing.
Nothing.
Public hearing, we have none. Unfinished business. Number 5, discussion and/or action on future zoning code amendments. Subsection A, Article 11, landscaping and preservation standards.
Thank you, Mayor Cronin and members of the commission. So this item, you probably remember last month we began discussion about a potential amendment to Article 11, landscape and preservation standards. And the items that Plan felt were most relevant in terms of addressing were building in more flexibility, relaxing the standards, particularly looking at hardscape elements and how we could assign credit for that. And then also the concern about ensuring that what is maintained. So we did, through the Article 11, kind of looked at everything, how it was set up, what was already.
All right. So yeah, you can do some nerves. Did I miss public comment?
We felt like these items could be addressed. So the first item we touched on a little bit last month in the area of flexibility. We are proposing to include a section toward the beginning of the ordinance in terms of applicability to enable applicants, if they're looking at alternative designs due to site conditions, scale, different approaches, etc., where they could come before the Planning Commission and present an alternative approach that wouldn't be subject to the same contextual requirements that go with points and species and that sort of thing. Beyond that, we also took a look at the allocations that are required for each of our categories. Just a quick, the categories are street frontage, foundation plantings, hardscape, or parking lots, and then general area, and then buffer yard, or the 5 areas. So we looked at those. The 2 that we felt would make the most sense to relax and allow kind of a broader range, basically not as many points as we did before, was around the frontage and then the general yard. We also took a good look at the landscape points table. The village arborist had some really good comments on it. We kind of lined everything up, I think, a little more accurately in terms of we have a large deciduous tree, small, We did the same thing with evergreens. We adjusted the points somewhat to be a little more generous, because I think we talked last month about how sites we thought tended to be overplanted at times. So applicants will get more credit across the board for the various types of plantings. We adjusted, we do have a category that existed before for an annual or perennial bed, and we don't dictate how much of that is planted. The applicant can say, this is an annual perennial bed, and they get credit based on the square footage. We increased that a little bit to allow for some greater points there. We also suggested adding a landscape surface ratio bonus. So if they're over the minimum required landscape surface ratio, they could also get points there. And that would help when items like stormwater management and other items are included that are consistent with green space, but maybe aren't exactly a landscape element. So those were ways that we were suggesting making adjustments, basically to get more credit than previously. We did look, the second category, we did look at hardscape. This is a difficult thing. I mean, I looked at a lot of other codes. We, consulted with some other municipalities. Typically the landscape ordinance, the structure of it is to get credit for the green space. So it's difficult. It's like they're kind of opposing, like the landscaping is what the credit is for and the hardscape is the alternative. We did talk about out west, and I looked at some of those codes. They do have ways they can encourage xeriscape plantings, which are like the native, like what you find in that area, which typically require lower water usage, energy usage. But in Wisconsin, the perennial points that we give, those would kind of be our native plants. So that would kind of be a way that they could use that now. We also do include the points for boulders, which we have now. And so that would be unchanged. And then again, we have that landscape surface ratio bonus proposed, which allows a little more flexibility, still maintaining some green area or some natural area, but being able to do it in a greater variety of ways. And then the last thing we talked about was the maintenance. And I mean, looking at our zoning code, we do have a nice section on maintenance that requires that plants that die are replanted within a year. I think the difficulty probably with any code with maintenance is just, it's hard to know, if someone has 18 plants and one dies, it's hard to really know, what has happened unless someone's really aware of what's there. So I think it's covered in terms of we have something to fall back on. It's more just being aware when it happens and to follow up when we do see that. So that the suggested changes are redlined, and I'll turn it back over to the commission for any questions.
Dave?
You use the term boulder. Does that mean just a big rock, or because in some areas there's been some like large pieces of stone that have been almost mined or cut out of, how do you define boulder? So
the category is 8 cubic feet. So it has to be a sizable, kind of like a landscape feature.
Could it be mined or just dug out of the ground as a big boulder?
Well, it's usually put in as kind of a landscaping treatment. So we adjusted the code I don't know how many years ago. It was for the Wausau Supply site. They incorporated that into their landscaping along with like native prairie grasses and plants in that. So the code was adjusted back then for it. So it gives some points for utilizing, and it's bigger boulders. So decorative, it's the decorative boulders.
But I mean, you could go up to 3M and buy some big chunks of granite, and that would be a boulder.
I would imagine if they put it in their landscaping, it gets put onto the landscaping plan and counted towards the points. So it tends to be decorative. We've only had it used a few times.
Okay, and then you said you checked with several other municipalities. What were those?
So I looked at some regionally, in Wisconsin, and then I looked at some out west, because we had talked about kind of that aspect of plantings that encompass more rock or more hardscape in some different styles. So kind of a combination, but some of them were just like around here, like Rib Mountain. I can actually pull it up. I looked at Rapids because I came from Rapids, so I was quite familiar with their code. I think De Pere was one. Trying to remember. Gillette, Wyoming happened to be the one that had a pretty extensive xeriscape language. Let's see. Okay, so it was Brookfield, De Pere, Janesville, La Crosse, Sheboygan, Wausau, Rapids, DeForest, Gillette, Madison, a community in Pennsylvania, Rib Mountain. That was the.
Okay, thank you.
It's not a question, just a comment. No matter what you do to an ordinance, it should be clear direction. And I read it as a designer, what respect. I know you have flexibility there and that's great, but still I need instruction.
Right, and that's what the
Everybody-
points gives you.
Right. That's what I'm
So,
looking
yeah, it's been a lot easier for them to submit. They've got the calculator. It's easier for us to review. And Carrie did run the calculations on this one to what ABC Weston. So she has that information too, so. They're still required to add some, but it's not as much as, and it's kind of what you guys were looking for, so.
Joel?
So Carrie, did you actually run the project we were talking about based on this, and how did that change? What did you come up with, or what did you find?
So, okay, so we have a landscape calculation worksheet that enables them to kind of lay out how they want their credit done. So if they use that landscape bonus, which they would be eligible for, and also use the annual perennial planting bed points, they would be short about 154 points, which is, for example, a tree and a shrub or something like that, and then they would need 2 additional street frontage trees. So it came close to what they had because they do have, kind of more the variety of other elements. So.
Yeah.
So they're only looking at a few
Right,
small
so it'd be
changes, small
along
trees or
Birch
something like
Street
that.
where they don't have any street trees. And then probably on the other side of the new building. There's a space
Yeah,
there.
I think that was our goal, was to come up with enough flexibility that allows you to work with somebody to get close to what they think and what was a reasonable requirement. So I appreciate your work on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You too. Anybody have anything else? Or Trav or Gary still muted?
So yes, Trav and Gary, if you're both muted, so you would just have to unmute yourself if you want to speak. I apologize.
I'd just like to say thanks for looking into this, you guys. I think that this is a big thing in town, and I personally see more stuff going towards hardscaping in the future, just based on landscaping trends currently. So thank you for doing your due diligence and looking into this.
Thank you, Trav. What's your pleasure?
I think. What was that? Sure. I just was saying I appreciate it as well. I think it's just it's easier maintenance as well and cost. I mean, if you could still try to make it look presentable and architecturally pleasing to the eye, I think it's a smart move.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion if someone would like to make one. Is there something else you'd like to discuss?
Just want to see, you have a specific comment in the motion. We just say I'll move to approve it.
Well, this basically has to go to public hearing. So what we're asking you is if it's okay for us to move it to public hearing. So it would come back next month with some of the other ones that we talked about last month. We've got some minor changes to also do regarding Everest Metro becoming Mountain Bay Metro. So we'll basically bring back a public hearing for the landscaping section. I think there was a sign definition, so that would be next month. So that's really all, if you're giving your blessing on us moving forward with the landscape.
Is that a motion, Boucher?
I guess, we don't have to make a motion.
I don't think they need.
Yeah, it's gotta go to public hearing.
Okay. Sounds good.
Or we can just say we.
Yeah, just read
Yeah.
for staff to schedule it for public hearing.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, moving on, new business. Number 6, discussion and or action on project update, project number 20220392. Ryan Street Rentals LLC, conditional use permit to construct and operate a personal storage facility within the LI Limited Industrial Zoning District per section 94.4.06, parent 3 at 6508 Ryan Street, pin number 192-2808-221-0985.
Yes, so this item is a personal storage facility that was before this body in 2022, I believe. And part of their proposal was that they had a phased timeline for development. So the first phase, the phases are kind of listed in the RFC. So the first phase was due November 1st, 2023. And we're now just beyond the phase 2 timeline, which was September 1, 2024. And they're deficient on a few items. So basically, Travis has been the one who has done the inspections and kind of assessed where things are at. And why this item is before you today is basically we're wondering if your preference would be for the applicant to seek an amendment to the conditional use permit, or if you would prefer that we begin the process of revocation of the conditional use permit. And the items that are lacking now are trees along the north property line, which the planning commission did give an extension on. They were originally part of phase 1 and they were moved to phase 2. Completion of the 4 northern buildings. Building 4 is not yet completed. Pour concrete pads for the 2 buildings to the southeast, and then the first lift of asphalt on the eastern half of the property. Those are the items that have not been done that were originally phase 2 items. And the attached plans kind of show the phasing, and I will turn it back over to the commission for any questions.
So I have a quick question. Have we had any conversation? Is it Jeff?
They're both here.
Oh, you're both here. Okay, perfect. I'm sorry. I was curious if we had any conversation with the applicants or.
Yeah, so myself, Roman, and Travis met out on the site today, walked the site, to take a look around, and then we briefly discussed this. Travis actually got this, the phasing over there. So I think everything's moving along fairly well. We got ahead of ourselves last year and got that 3rd building up, and then just with the financing coming in a little late this year, we have the next 3 ordered and set to be up. Really, it seems like everything was November, but this phase 2 was September, and then the last one's November. I think we would really be in good shape if everything was November. Close of the season to get the everything completed in phase 2.
Okay. Can you state your name and address just so we have it on record, please, sir?
Yeah, Jeff Nowak, 166-307 Green Hill Road, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403.
Thank you, sir.
And there's a little bit of fencing that still needs to be installed along the north property line in between buildings 3 and 4, and on the east end of 4.
Okay.
They are prepping for paving.
East end of 4, or east end of 4, well, along the line is done, but it's not the back of the building is active.
Correct. So, I mean, they are prepping for paving out there. This afternoon we are on site. I think the building 4 is going to be here beginning in November, correct, Jeff?
Yeah. I pulled up the email I'm dealing with Trocky, is who built these buildings, and then Bruce Gus, right in town here, puts them up. He doesn't have any additional information. When the building shows up, he reports and puts it up. They're pretty cookie cutter Lego style buildings. So right now, Mark Broccoli from Trocky gave me a date first week in November, is when that building will be on site to seal off that side. The other two, are gonna be soon thereafter. So I'm really pushing for that north building, to seal off the north property line and be able to tie in some fences into, to that, have it secured.
Dave, you were first.
Yeah, as I remember, we had quite a room full of neighbors to the north, the last time you gentlemen were in here, and, they had some concerns. How are we doing at, meeting those? There was some screening issues, some fencing issues, some security issues, like, I don't know where we're at.
Have any of the neighbors reached out?
Periodically, yeah. I mean, and I talked to Jeff about this earlier today. Over the summer, we had some complaints of water runoff issues, particularly to the east end of the property where the existing large building is. And so we had talked about grading properly along that north property line, especially once we've got the paving in there. There's going to be a lot of water flow coming off of those buildings and off the paving. So I don't think we had any specific people reach out in regards to this evening's meeting, but we discussed it with Jeff thoroughly along off the north property line and stuff.
That answer your question, Dave?
Just all gotta get done the way it was intended and the way it was promised to get done for them also.
Right.
So I've heard you mention two different dates so far. I heard you, I thought say you're comfortable that phase 2 would be done by November 1st, but then I heard you say the building was coming first week of November. Assuming we amend this, we need to pick a date. So what date are you comfortable with?
I guess maybe different aspects of because if you look in there, everything's color coded to different pieces. So if you want to just do phase 2 total completion, that's the best way to look at it.
I mean, I don't know that it's my, to give you that opinion. I just am saying, if we amend this, we need to have a date.
Sure.
And I'm throwing it back to you saying, what date, you see that phase 2, right? What date would you be comfortable saying we would be complete by that date? Because otherwise we're going to be back at this some other to amend it again. Right?
And I would agree. I think that's a good talking point to get this conversation kicked off. I mean, I will say to some extent, I don't know what your thoughts are, Roman, but we had a very wet 2 months in May and June, and I know that put a lot of people on a lot of different things behind. So yeah, I'm not trying to make excuses for someone here, but I think that
no,
to some extent,
I'm not trying to throw stones at them either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I understand that sometimes deadlines won't be hit for legitimate reasons, but what would be the date is like I said, listening to you, I heard 2 different dates.
Yeah, when the building shows up. I think December 31st, keep it in this year. And that gives Bruce the time to build the building and complete that. If the building shows up November, and he built it through November. He did work in the winter last year, doing that third building to get me ahead of the schedule. But I think that would be a realistic time frame. If he gets it done by November 30th, that's great, but I'd
Rather have you be
just
conservative than aggressive.
he's still waiting on WPS to set the transformer so he can energize the buildings as well.
So that's gonna hold up paving for a little while.
Yeah, everything's in process of moving, very touch base with everybody, all moving pieces.
Do the trees have to wait for the building, or can that be done?
No, that can be done before that.
That was gonna be my next question. What about the concrete pads for the other two buildings to the southeast?
I think, what did Matt say?
Middle to end of October, just because of the size of them, they'd like to hit a little cooler temperature, beginning of October. They're large slabs, just with the lift and the workability to do it this week, 85 degrees, and we had a problem with some hairline cracking and stuff, so we want to try and eliminate that spring. That's why we poured that fourth one in the spring, we'll pour these two in the fall.
And I suppose the asphalt's gotta get done before the plant shut down, so that's gotta be somewhere around that November 1st,
I mean, they'll-
November
depending on-
15th.
Depending on the weather, I mean, it's gonna close down pretty much the week before.
Always does. So they'll have to get that contouring all done prior to that, and then get, the asphalt lined up. At least, the base course, so come back in the spring and put the final course on maybe, but.
It's,
Yeah, the top coat we had planned on doing at the end of the project, we don't want to put a top coat.
No, right,
Drive trucks over, so I think that was next fall or early part of 2026, but for sure try and get the binder coat down.
yeah, that's part of the east half of the project. Binder coat is part of phase 2.
Correct.
Just a thought, do we do a date of November 15th for everything except building 4 and say December 31st for building 4? Is that reasonable?
I agree with that. Yeah, that'd be reasonable.
Me, based on their performance, if we said December 31st for all of it, at this point, I'm comfortable that they're not proceed on the stuff that they need to do this fall in order to have that all done. So I'm okay putting that responsibility or accountability back on them and recognizing that they have a limited time here to get some of the early fall work done. So if you guys would commit to that, I would be supportive of that. Just to keep it from being overly complicated.
Right.
It's not like you're gonna delay on it. I think the trees with the neighbors, that was one of the big issues, right? That's, yeah, I mean, I'd rather see that done sooner than later.
I would agree.
And I guess I can leave, North Landscaping, I can say as far as even September 27, Friday, September 27th. Started that binder course is September 27th, and then fence, which me and Roman talked about today, would be October 25th to seal up that side. So I do have everything laid out here, and then 2 slabs. I was putting a deadline of the 15th, which is just prior to Thanksgiving, deer hunting time frame. We know everything's going to freeze up by then, regardless. Anyway, yes, we need our due diligence to get all the grading in, and everything done. I did talk with the asphalt contractor, his binder coat, so he doesn't have a hard time pushing it as running it right to the end, basically. So if he can come in and do that first building, do the binder coat when that first slab is done, and then the next one right after that, break it into 2 or 3 phases, he's willing to do that to keep us moving along, so that if it does freeze out, we're at least caught up to where we need to be. So it doesn't turn into one large project on, let's say, November 1st for him. We're gonna push it along and keep it, like I said, he'll start some asphalt prior to September 27th. I guess I gotta work with them too, because they're in the driver's seat. Yeah, that's for sure. So I did reach out to them as well, to have that understanding.
We did discuss with Jeff this afternoon that until that north property line is fenced and buildings are intact, so that the site's secure, we wouldn't be issuing any OC for any portion of it.
Correct.
So.
The electrical and security as well.
Yeah.
So we do
have, the security is designed and ready to be put in on electric, the building's receiving electrical. So all that's in motion just as well.
Okay. What's your pleasure? There is some, whoever would like to make a motion, there is some recommended language for action that'll probably help. I think essentially all we have to do is push the date back.
I'll move to amend the conditional use permit number 2022-0392 at 6508 Ryan Street to adjust the completion date for phase 2 to December 31st, 2024.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mumper, by Jordan. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you for coming, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Valerie, did you see Gary dropped off?
Gary was on with Travis, they're on the same phone number. There's somebody else that's on it.
Oh, okay.
Gary's on with me, merged in.
Okay. All right, where are we here? Item number 7? Yeah. 7, yep. Project number 2024-0110, discussion action on proposed amendment number 3 to site plan for multi-tenant commercial development at 2302 Schofield Avenue, block redevelopment, 192-2808-181-0992.
Thank you. This item, you probably remember, was here not too long ago, for a tenant suite change from 3 to 4 units. And they're continuing to have some transition kind of in their leases and some of their, I mean, you'll remember Anytime Fitness went away. And so that's when they went to 4. And in kind of reviewing everything and looking at their kind of existing conditions, they have determined that the smaller tenant suites will rent or easier, lease easier. So they're wanting to go now from 4 to 5. So everything else is staying very similar. We did an analysis again, just to look at parking again and some of the other things that potentially could be changing. But again, the space, the footprint, the overall layout's changing, footprint's not. So for parking and those types of things, we're not seeing any need to make any modifications to the overall site plan. So they are adding one small door or one door on the east elevation that there's a bump out, and so it's technically on the east elevation, it's kind of toward the middle of the building. And so that elevation is the lowest one on the RFC, and you can see there's an additional door there, but otherwise everything is staying very similar to what was proposed when you saw it last go from 3 to 4. So I will turn it back over to the commission.
What's the total square footage? I couldn't figure it out.
Let me see.
That would have been on the original, so we wouldn't have it in here.
I can look.
My other question would be, does that door not empty into the drive-through lane?
No,
It does not.
there's like a patio.
There is.
You can't
Okay.
really see it, but there's like, maybe
There's a
Michael,
lot of depth to that.
there's
subspace.
that one part bumps out and there's like an overhang.
Okay,
You can't really tell from these. You could tell when you guys saw the original
sure.
renderings.
That was my only concern. when I-
Yeah,
when I
that
looked
area is
at it.
kind of tucked back and I think it's even kind of got seating.
So currently
It's like a patio. There's a what there?
there's a skylight there currently, so I don't know if there's gonna be seating there or not. But it is we were on site several times today, and that doorway faces Caribou, but it is definitely, it's right in the middle of the building.
So this portion is out further than this portion.
Correct.
Okay.
This overhang is kind of the patio area.
Yeah,
Is the refuse going to be added? Is it 3 to 5 tenants?
The only thing would be is they might have to schedule more frequent collections.
Yeah, if it's more frequent, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
More space.
Are there back exits to every one of these 5 units, no?
they're in the process of adding the fit pad on the back.
It continues to evolve.
You might see it again.
Might see it next month. So.
Hey, Roman,
Sure.
do they have electric service in this building yet?
Not yet. We already.
Okay, so from personal experience, we got to make sure that they have 5-meter bases if they're going to go from 3 to 5.
That is correct, and we covered that with them, as soon as we found out that they were going to 5. And the cabinet that they ordered, is a max of 5, so we can't get a 6th unit out of it. That,
Thanks for being proactive.
welcome.
Is the cabinet returnable?
That size should be the only, we don't have any interior plans for anything other than firehouse stuff. So they don't, there's no current build out on plan. for-
Yeah, there was just a floor plan.
Yeah, so it's all open box.
Okay.
And on square footage, it looks like 8,932. Does that sound right? No,
That's what they have on your drainage sheet.
The other thing I could think of is screening for the HVAC units.
There's a fence in the back.
Oh, I just assume they're adding more units, so you need more.
Yeah, that, we brought
Or
that
are
to you
they
the
doing-
last time.
Or is this one unit services? I don't know how it's set up.
They brought that last time. There was a change because they took them off they had to take the one off the roof for this area anyway. And there's a full fence along the back.
Dave?
Kind of room it is. I mean, that slab was poured a long time ago. All that plumbing and everything were all in for 3 or 4, now 5.
No, they put the foundation, but none of the internal slab work has been poured.
Yeah, they put that in later.
Yeah, so they got foam on both sides of the foundation, so footing foundation, foam on both sides. And then, they were taking care of, Jet's Plumbing was taking care of in-floor plumbing today.
How many parking they have?
They have enough square footage. So I
Is it
don't know like how
Maybe.
many.
at least?
We'd have to look in the last packet. Do you have the staff report?
Trustee Constant took himself off mute too, so I'm thinking he might have a question.
Should be at least 30 of them.
I thought there was 30 some. I want to say 33. But
Parking space and the number of patron seats and square footage depending on the use, as no changes are proposed to the overall building improvement or concerns about the post.
What page is that on? Roy?
It is on page. See it, page 48. The last paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it addresses the change.
Yeah, but it doesn't answer
Question.
the question.
Yeah, I'm not
I
saying
went
it
through
does.
that and
It's-
it should be on
Yeah,
that.
I just want to point out that they said they would.
okay, 35.
Yeah, it's good.
35, and then the square footage on the floor plan is also showing that 8932. on the floor
Some
plan.
of these suites are not gonna be that big. I think it might, I mean, from what I'm,
Well, based on the square footage of the building, we recommend that for every vehicle, 325 square foot. 200 square foot for a car and then 25 for driving here or whatever.
Mhm.
So, and then we got 10% for handicap. You get pretty good.
Yeah.
Actually, you got more than that.
I would agree. All right,
Thank you.
what's your pleasure?
I'll recommend approval to the village board of the amended site plan for a multi-tenant commercial development. at 2302 Smithwood Ave.
Second.
So motion by Jordan, seconded by Zagami. On the question. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Did we hear from Trav on that one or no?
Yeah, he's there.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Staff reports, item 8, acknowledge and place on file the August 2024 staff approved certified survey maps and site plans.
We'll go from Travis.
Can you
My phone hasn't moved. What's that?
Is that a motion, Travis?
I'm sorry, Gary and I had a little issue here. We kind of lost you guys for a second.
We're on the staff, August staff approvals.
Again, we lost connection, so we didn't hear what you guys said. I apologize.
So we're on item number 8, acknowledge and place on file the August 2024 staff approved certified survey maps and site plans.
Move to acknowledge.
Second.
Motion by Zagami.
Yeah,
second-
move to acknowledge. Yeah, we couldn't hear, so I was gonna say,
That's okay. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Assume those are yeses, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
motion carried. Item number 9, acknowledge and place on file the August 2024 building permits.
Move to approve as presented.
Motion by, second by Hoffman.
Karen,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
aye,
Opposed? So carried. Item number 10, acknowledge and place on file planning and development project update report.
Move to acknowledge item 10.
Second.
Motion by
Second.
Zagami, seconded by Deason. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
aye,
Opposed? So carried. Miscellaneous, item number 11, announcements and commissioner remarks and staff referrals. Dave, you have anything?
No, thank you.
Roy?
Compliments to staff on the landscaping.
Yeah, ditto.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Shane?
I think Jennifer, that report is pretty nice. Short and-
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. Gary, do you have anything?
I don't have anything.
Trav?
Nope, I have nothing.
I don't really have anything to add. Next regular meeting date will be Monday, October 14th, 2024 at 6 p.m. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Please.
Second.
Motion by
Motion
DC.
to adjourn.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. We are adjourned 6:54 p.m.
Thank you.